facing insurmountable odds, Vietnam veteran John Rambo has seconds left to make a bold decision. He and his audience know what he has to do. An act of heart-pounding daring. The history of movies is overflowing with moments of amazing action scenes. Moments where stunt performers, whether to elicit a gasp or a laugh, have often risked life and limb to thrill us. Hi, I'm Christopher Reeve. Cannon rolls, high falls, bulldogging, full burns. Now, these exotic-sounding terms are part of the everyday language of stunt people, that elite group of men and women whose breathtaking achievements we're celebrating. Every stunt is a new challenge to their skill and their imagination. In this program, we're going to explore with them and some of the stars they work with this extraordinary way of making a living. To believe what we're seeing. These exciting seconds of stunning action are indeed convincing. But of course, no one was actually injured during any of those scenes. Experienced stunt people, athletes with no desire to harm themselves, created those hair-raising moments. While these professionals only number in the hundreds, they perform thousands of amazing stunts every year. And modern safety techniques have greatly reduced the risk of injury, but stunt work is still extremely dangerous. Their job holds a fascination for all of us, although very few of us can really understand fully how it's done. Perhaps Michael Douglas came closer in his dual role as producer and actor.
What I soon learned, being my first production with a lot of action, a la a mudslide or swinging across a chasm, can look great on the page. One never has any idea of the complexities and the realities of getting them done.
Preparing for a new role, Michael recalls,
ultimately, a large part of the success of Romancing the Stone was a result of the action sequences that we had in that picture. And those, in turn, we have to thank a guy named Terry Leonard.
20 years ago, a big outdoor action film, A Man Called Horse. The enemy chief, Striking Bear, is played by Terry Leonard, a college football player who'd begun in movies as an extra. But he was soon spotted by veteran stuntmen as having the drive, coordination, and grit to make it as one of them. A superior horseman, Terry is also a modern stuntman who can't afford to specialize. Versatility is both the key to survival and, in his case, exceptional success. To come up with a new stunt or gag like this one in Blue Thunder requires a grasp of mechanics and physics, among other things. Terry obviously is a master of them all. In The Wind and the Lion, starring as Bergen, Terry would coordinate all the stunts as well as perform the toughest.
We didn't hurt a horse. The risk of personal injury is great. I'm what they call an adrenaline junkie. And I get my kicks out of just performing a challenging piece of work. I don't need publicity for it. I don't need to be on screen. And 99% of most stuntmen feel that way. You get your acceptance from your peers.
In one of the most realistic war films ever made, the dangerous stunts in Apocalypse Now were seldom highlighted, but they were there.
It was a hell of an experience. It was a classic. I'll never work on another film of that magnitude again, I don't think, as long as I'm in the business. It was kind of like working on Gone with the Wind. We had 9 cameras going a lot of times. We had a lot of multiple camera setups. Amazingly, on Apocalypse, nobody got hurt.
I want my men out.
In a scene where a female Viet Cong tosses a bomb in a helicopter just lifting off, weeks of preparation went into assuring that the explosions would work in one take. And the soldier blown out of the craft had to be on fire as well. Terry's stunt was seen for an instant in a long shot. Replaying the scene, you have to look closely to see this detail of the overall horror of war. Brief and distant though it is, Terry regards the stunt as one of his finest.
10, 12, 15 times a year when you're a working stuntman probably is the only amount of time that you're really, what I call staring the Grim Reaper in the face, where you're doing something that's really essentially dangerous from the onset.
In the 1981 Legend of the Lone Ranger, Terry tries to duplicate a stunt done only once before, in 1938, by his mentor, Yakima Canutt. Perfect timing and terrific strength are required, both of which Terry possesses. But something can always go wrong, and did.
The rear wheels of the coach ran over both my legs and damaged my left knee pretty bad. Put a big dent in my calf on the right leg, and fortunately I came out legs first, not head first.
Romancing the Stone. Terry as second unit director and also Michael's double for the imminent stunt.
I couldn't believe the size of this thing, and the water was pouring down. And Terry was sort of whimsical looking at that because he'd done a lot of Westerns. He was the one that turned us on this waterfall. And Durango was an area where they did a lot of Westerns, and he said, you know, I always want to take a horse off that fall. I just looked at this man like, sure I can understand that, Terry. And so I think it was out of the challenge of never having had a chance to take a horse off that fall, which I think was about 90. It was about 90 feet. So we had questions, but again, you always are in the hands of the experts.
But there could only be one take, and no one's perfect.
And I don't even like to use the word death, but I've had some pretty close calls, and this was absolutely the closest. I was gone.
Go!
It looks great in the movie, and his partner behind him, Vince Dedrick Jr., doubling Kathleen Turner, had no problem. But Terry's movement was restricted by the unexpected downdraft, which kept him perilously close to the car and trapped by the waterfall.
I didn't have any air. I couldn't get up. I was down about 7, 8 feet with the pressure of the water holding me under the hydraulic action of the falls, and I couldn't get out. So the good Lord's the only person that knows why he chose to get me that last gulp of air, and that's what saved me. But it was a pretty close call.
A good stuntman really knows how to make a stunt pay off. And Terry Leonard was a guy, and is renowned as a guy who can really create great stunts, memorable stunts.
In 1958, Terry's mentor, Yakima Canutt, would be entrusted with supervising the main action in Ben-Hur, a remake of the silent epic in which more than 100 horses and a number of men died while shooting the colossal chariot race. He had no intention of letting history repeat itself. 6 months preparation and 3 months filming were scheduled for the 8-minute sequence, the capstone of Yakima's career. He'd been a premier stuntman for decades, earning his reputation by engineering and safely completing impossible pieces of action, such as this classic in Stagecoach, which even the brilliant Terry Leonard couldn't repeat. Now, 30 years later, as second unit director, he'd not only have to stage each complex stunt,